Is Crystal Edge Technology Screens. And there's a few things I want to explain to you before we start on this. Now, we're in talks right now with a church that has a pretty good size projection screen. And the projection screen probably comes in around 200 inches by the measurements they gave me by the size of the screen is around 200 inches. And the projector they're using is a very powerful projector. They're using, I think, like 12,000 lumen Epson projector for their church. Usually, when you have churches, schools, places that are going to have a lot, and I mean a lot of ambient light that is going to be in that environment, they would choose high-end, very high-end, expensive, or high-end, if they can get a projector for a good price, projectors with a very high lumen count. Now, the problem you have with a projector with a very high lumen count when it's hitting a white or gray screen, because this is the issue that they're running into, that when using a white screen, and some people I've talked to, when trying to use a gray screen, the screen is reflecting too much light. You have about a 10,000 lumen projector, 12,000 lumens, 7,000. It's rare that it's not rare, but you will most likely find these high caliber projectors in these environments. Besides 5s and 6s and 7s, you'll find 10s and 12s in there. And they use these projectors, like I said, in fully lit environments. Now, we have a testimony that we send over from time to time to churches that are dealing with screens this size with that much light. We send that testimony. This testimony was given to us way back for a church that we did overseas, where they were using a 7,000 lumen projector. I'll post a link below if you ever didn't see that demonstration. And they were so happy with the results of our products, but they tried everything. They tried gray paints. Yes, they did. That's the first thing to do. If it's a white screen, they'll go out and they'll get themselves some gray paint. They'll make a mixture. They'll go on YouTube. They'll do all the research, and they will find gray screen paint products. They'll make them and put them against their screens. And the problem they're going to have there, again, is high-end venue projectors will not work on gray or white screens because they're producing too much light and you're whitewashing the screen. And that's the problem that the church was having. That every time they would turn on that projector, when it would hit that white screen, it would completely wash the image out altogether. Because keep in mind, this is a screen, gray screens and white screens have a very difficult time producing images in fully lit environments. So imagine you have number one in a fully lit environment, and number two, you're hitting it with a projector that has an outstanding or incredible light source. So you're adding to that. So yes, the screen is going to wash out. Where our black technology doesn't have that issue because our black technology is designed to absorb that light, which I showed you in many demonstrations. We did some demonstrations on showing the reason why you don't want to paint gray screens or white screens and dedicated theater rooms due to the fact that they reflect a lot of white light all over the environment and they don't capture the light. They actually basically disperse it. And depending on the caliber projector you're using, this is how much light you're going to have shooting all over the environment. Like I said, we don't basically talk it, we back it up. So we're going to go into a topic of why you do not want to use gray or, like I said, white screens or gray screens when using these high-end projectors, because it's extremely bad due to the fact, like I said, you're going to have a lot of light reflecting all over the environment, and this is something you don't want. On top of that, you're not going to be able to pull in 100% contrast levels, which I'm pretty sure that the projectors have an insane contrast capability, and your colors are not going to come up correctly. If you have to calibrate that projector at the end of the day, that's going to be a problem. And this is the reason why when I tell you that when you do demonstrations on products, if you're selling these products, you should not do these demonstrations in the dark. Because if you're going to be running across a company or a business or even someone who has a very well-lit home, and in your demonstrations, if your environments are always in the dark, always displaying in the dark, then that means what's going to happen is that when that person takes that product and puts it in a fully lit environment, the screen is going to have complications where it's not going to be able to produce the way it's supposed to produce because it was in a comfortable cradle environment. That's another problem. Now, another thing also too we need to talk about too is paint measurement. How much paint does it take to go in to do this screen, to do that screen? Some people like to hear this, but it's the truth. You should never, ever, and like I said at the end of the day, miscalculate how much paint it goes into paint a screen. Because this right here could basically plague your customers. It also too can also plague your business if you don't know what you're talking about at the end of the day. And I'm going to bring this up. Yes, I'm definitely going to bring it up. we had an individual on YouTube, we're not going to mention his name, a fellow who sells paint, who posted on his website miscommunication. I mean, beyond miscommunications. We're basically stating that 2 quarts of paint could paint up to a 300-inch screen. Clearly showing that the individual has no experience whatsoever on screen sizes of that caliber, because anyone who's on a 180-inch, which I'm about to do right now, we clearly know that a 180-inch takes 1 gallon to knock out. See the screen I have sitting on my wall, that massive giant screen? That right there is a 180-inch screen painted onto stucco. It took 1 gallon to knock that out. So unless your screen paint has extremely good coverage, and I mean you have to have extremely outstanding coverage to cover a size of that big, that caliber, that is the only way. Now, the church that we're in talks with right now, if they keep in mind, they've already painted the screen already. They painted it multiple times. And it took them about a gallon to knock it. I know it took them about a gallon to knock out that screen size. But they're going to ask me at the end of the day, how much paint do you think it's going to take to knock out that screen? And we're going to tell them that's going to take about a gallon to knock it out, because we already know from the fact that our screen has extremely good coverage. Yeah, we're going to tell you a gallon. The reason why I can tell you it's going to be a gallon, because I have painted screens of larger sizes and I'm familiar and I know how much paint it takes. Imagine if I sat there and told the church that talked to me yesterday and I said, hey, they said, well, how much paint do you think it's going to take to paint this screen? I go, 2 quarts. They definitely would have came up short. And that means they would have been, keep in mind, when you're dealing with some of these businesses, they have to go before a board, they have to go before a meeting, they have to get approval in order to spend money. So it's not going to look good for them to come back to the board and say, hey, look, we came up short 2 quarts, so we're going to need more money to go in to finish off the screen. That's going to make them upset, because you put them out there on a limb because they were trusting your expert opinion to give them the proper information to be able to paint the screen. And therefore, because you didn't give them the information, because you don't have experience in that field, they're going to have to go back to the board and request this money, which is not going to make them look good at the end of the day, and they're not going to be happy about it. So that's why, so you have to know exactly what you're talking about. Doing Roadrunner, Mickey Mouse math? No, you have to literally crack books and do calculations, or physically paint the screen in yourself so you know exactly how much paint it takes. All paint doesn't react the same way. I tell people, warn people at the end of the day, don't copy off somebody else and say, oh, I think. No, you don't know. Your paint could have less or more coverage than another person, so you really can't put that in there until you physically paint the screen. So with that being said, those measurements have to be correctly, and you have to know this. You would know this. Anyone would know if you're painting in a 150 is going to take 2 quarts, which we have on the floor right now. That's 150 inch. 180 is going to take about a gallon. You would know that right from the door. The minute you hit a 180-inch screen, you would know right from the door. Anything above that is going to be a gallon, 2 gallons, 3 gallons, 4 gallons, automatically from the door. Anyone who sits there and says that 2 quarts are going to go into painting a 300-inch screen clearly does not know what they're talking about at the end of the day. And this is an individual. If they don't know exactly how much paint goes into painting a screen of that caliber, you should not be buying from them. The other problem, like I said, instead of, like I said, this particular individual, we're not going to mention her name because we don't give them any credit whatsoever. Another amateur move is using what we call the, I call Acme Acre Roadrunner math, or Wile E. Coyote math. Instead of going in and breaking it down and trying to figure out how much per square inch that they will get from their product, they go and add in 3 100-inch screens are going to equivalent, and I hope they never use it. Anybody who's basically painted, anyone who's ever at a company, any business who reads this nonsense on a page, is automatically going to know from the door that the person doesn't have any experience on screens of this size at all, period. They don't have any experience at all. But as I said before, using the Roadrunner math, we call Roadrunner math, by saying that, and you have to be careful about this, people will say that 3 100-inch screens will equal the size of a 300-inch screen. Virtually impossible. A 100-inch screen, and we have one upstairs, is actually 4 feet by 7 feet. A screen of 300 inches, and I have a thing about numbers, they get stuck in my head, so it's there. It's 147 in height and 261 inches in length. Oh, it's weird. It's just once I memorize something, it's in the head. But anyway, that's the size of an official 300-inch screen. We're not talking about viewing area. We're talking about the entire screen itself. I can go on forever to tell you about viewing areas on screens. But anyway, that is the approximate size. Now, we tried this experiment on the 250, 2-quart 250. That's what we have in the back. That's what we call the screen. We took 2 quarts of paint and we tried to put 2 quarts of paint into 250. Didn't even come close, didn't even come anywhere near it. So you already know from the door that 300 inches is never going to work. And then by saying that 3 100-inch screens equal, if you paint 3 100-inch screens, they will equal the amount of a screen that is 300 inches, is completely false. Due to the fact, like I said, the measurements don't add up. 4 feet by 7 feet is a 100-inch screen. So if you take 3 of these screens, which, like I said, by Roadrunner math or Coyote math, 3 of these screens, which they figure if you paint 3 of these, this will equal to the size of a 300-inch screen. Not going to happen. A 300-inch screen, again, 147 inches, which will be 12 feet, around 12 feet, 3 inches in height. All right. Now, if you take 3 100-inch screens and you stack them up, you got 3 times 7. That's around, 3 times 4, because they're 4 feet high, would be 12. You would have the height of the screen, but you'll be missing the length because the 100-inch screen would be 7 feet. And you're talking about a screen that's 264 or 263 or 61 inches wide. You are missing a lot of screen, which means you're going to need more paint to paint that side, including the side you already did, already from the 300 screens. Let's see if you were to stack them up lengthwise. So now you have a screen that's 7 by 7 by 7. That's 21. You're still nowhere near the size of that screen. You're still going to need more paint, but now you don't have the height because that screen is 12 feet, I think 12 feet and 3 inches high, and your screen's only 4 feet. So you can't take 3 100-inch screens and equivalent them to the size of a 300-inch screen. If you were to speak this nonsense, now mind you, this is again, they're expecting for people at the end of the day who don't know. But you bump into anybody, any person with basic common sense would know this. Anybody. You take the average Joe and you walk them into a room and say, how much paint you think is going to take to paint this room? The first thing they're going to say is a gallon. Everybody says a gallon. It could be a bathroom and they will still say a gallon. Because that's what they start off with. No one I've ever seen ever walked into a room and said, 2 quarts. No one. So that tells you clearly that the person has no idea, completely oblivious of basically how much paint it takes to paint in the screen. And because they don't know this is something somebody you don't buy from because they have no experience in painting screens of that size. And the fact that they do have experience in painting screens of smaller caliber sizes, such as 100 inches, you clearly know the size and height of a 100-inch would never equal the size of a 300-inch screen, which would be virtually impossible. But that's the reason why I'm bringing that up, because before we paint the screen in, these are the things you need to know, all right, from the door. This is going to be 2 parts of this video because, like I said, when we do these screens, they require 2 parts. First part of it is going to be priming the surface and drying it. And second one is going to be applying the application to the surface. I'm curious myself. Like I said, our screens have extremely good coverage. We had a customer who painted a 150-inch screen. If you don't know how big a 150-inch screen is, you see the size of the screen right here on the floor. That is a 150-inch. They painted that screen in on a motorized projector, and they had a half a quart left over. So I'm curious how much paint we're going to have left over. Now, anytime we're painting a screen, the first thing we have to do is we have to paint the screen in first to see how much paint we have. It doesn't make a difference if we painted dozens and dozens and dozens. Each formula that we develop could have a different coverage. So to make sure we know exactly how much paint it's going to take, anytime you paint a screen, not only must you finish off the screen, but you must have a good amount left over, just in case if the customer uses more or less. That's very important. Again, like I said, I could not express this enough. But also, too, we're going to go into a topic of why high-powered venue projectors for businesses and churches and so forth are not good for light gray screen paint products or white screens. It is a very, very bad idea to begin with, due to the fact that your screen is going to be reflecting a ton of white light, and you'll be washing your screen out even faster. Mind you, if a screen paint does not have the proper requirements of being able to produce in a fully lit environment on a home theater setting, imagine in a commercial setting how much problems it's going to have at the end of the day. All right, so let's begin with this. Now, We're going to be using, of course, Black Widow technology. I didn't get a chance to finish the rest of the caption because, like I said, you only get 60. I'll finish it when the video is over. This is a 180-inch screen. And we did the measurements because I had to make sure that, we're going to be selling these pre-coated. We have customers who are happy about this because they want to have a giant outdoor screen, and some of them don't have the room or the time to paint them. And the fact that we can come and do that for you, this makes it a lot easier on you. So, if you are deciding to paint the screen or do one yourself, we do advise that you go in and you basically put something down on the floor because it's going to seep right to the floor, and it's definitely going to hit your asphalt or your driveway or whatever you have. It's definitely going to happen. So that's something you definitely want to do. We are going to be adding something different to our pre-coated screen. So we're going to be putting a special coating onto the surface, special coating from us to heighten the screen's ability to be able to produce a much more brighter image outside. This only comes with pre-coated surfaces only that we do. We have to add something special different. All right, so let's get this up. This is my 150-inch screen. Now, like I said, if you're a business or a company, most people, I don't meet a lot of people who have 180-inch screens in their homes. Most people have a screen this size are going to be somebody with using for backyard. These are for backyards only anyway, by the way. But most people are going to use it for backyard displays. Sorry about that, people. Backyard displays, or they're going to be using it for businesses or something like that. So, like I said, you need to know exactly, the person needs to know exactly how much paint is going in to do the screen if they're advising you to paint the screen. And this is very important. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do something different with our pre-coated. I want to add something different that no one else has. Okay, so basically we want to put something different because you can do the pre-coat yourself. But we're going to add something different with our pre-coaters. We're going to add a black white heightener technology. Ooh, guess what that technology is? We have advancement stuff that we use, but we're going to be adding extra to the screen to get it to actually produce a much more higher gain level and higher white level. And that's only included with pre-coated surfaces only. Okay, ew, Mr. Bird, what is that, Mr. Bird? All right, so let's get this started. Let me get my screen out of here. And I gotta sweep down the floor so we don't have any dust particles. I got to change up my floor too, so I don't care about messing the floor up because I got to change it out anyway. Got to change up the whole floor, so I don't really mind. I'll be messing it up. I'm glad the measurements weren't what they're supposed to be. They were supposed to be, 15 inches in height, which I'm glad because that would make it kind of hard for me to paint this thing in here. What is this?
It looks like a screw of some sort. I gotta take this thing out anyway, but I don't want to be stepping on this all day, and I don't want this pressing into my spoon. So what do I do? This is why I need to basically get myself a room magnet badly.
I'm gonna cut this a little bit. I'm not worrying about it, but I gotta replace the floor anyway. I think we got a screw embedded in there somewhere.
got drop cloth on these anyway, so I can't really jack this up. Can I get this actually under another drop cloth, really? It's like trying to pull a spinner out of the hand. Yep, screw.
I need to get myself, actually I need to buy myself a broom magnet and just go through everything outside, inside. I'm guaranteed I have a ton of screws by the end of the day. Now you paint these screens, if you're going to be painting yourself, it's a little interesting. If you are doing this outside, which you're going to have to if you got a warehouse and warehouse space, because the screen's a good sized screen. So as you got some warehouse space, it's another way. But these screens, when you paint them, you start in the center and you push out. Because if you don't, what's going to happen is a roller is going to get wrapped around the edge. It's going to pull the screen with you. So you have to start off in the middle and you have to push out. That's how we're going to do it. The first coat is always going to be the hardest. Second one gets much easier because it's already painted. Make sure we got fans down here. Well, I got a walkway right here, which is good. That allows me to get back and forth. We got 2 fans to run this through, so that's good. I think I'm going to put this one on this side, this corner for this one. I'll have that side. We need a cord for this.
Power crystal. This is me doing my thing. Put this cord down here for this fan, because it's going to take 2 fans to knock this out. So there's 1 cord here for supply, and we need another one. Rather, you got to go through here with a magnet. What's this right here? Definitely should not be there. Yeah, the screw there. All right, let me see. I need a power cord. This right here. outlet. Nice. Track one down. More than peachy.
All right, one up that they got from there. Yeah, that's enough. That's enough for me to hit from here to here perfectly. All right, let me cut this open over here because we got something. I think we got another screw over in here.
Something else is here. Something here. This is the spring. There it is. Spring from an old tension screen. This is what it was.
All right. Get them out now because, like I said before, I got to come in here and I got to put a new surface down on it anyway. To make sure everything is out, spread from corner to corner. Now, I said before, when you paint the screen, now, when we give these, when we do our pre-coateds, we're going to be adding something, like I said, something a little special to the pre-coated surface. We're going to put another enhancement onto the surface, which is going to be different from basically you painting the screen yourself. Because we have to have something different that separates the two from one being one and one being the other. But if you are deciding to paint this yourself by going out and buying the product, we do advise that when you paint the screen, you start off not in the middle, but right near the edge. You got to push out, push out, push out when you paint. If you try to bring this in and roll this back in, what's going to happen is that roller is going to get caught around the material and it's going to bring it in with you. You're going to have a mess on your hands. So there's a certain way how these screens have to be painted. They're all the same way. They all have to be painted the same way. This is the method we came up with that works best. That's why we had those big 150s, 180 inches sitting outside. And if you want, you can click on the link. We got the 180 inch on display. And this is how it's done. Reason why you don't see, if you're not seeing tutorial videos, I told you from the door, if you're not seeing tutorial videos on other people who claim to sell these products, I wouldn't buy big screens from it at the end of the day because they don't know what they're talking about. A big screen has to be painted a certain way. They don't have experience in that field. Like I said, because no one would make a rookie mistake like that by saying that 2 quarts, there's no way in the world that 2 quarts is going to paint this surface. Never going to happen. No, it's too big of a screen. So let's start off with first on getting some everyday paint, which we need to do the screen. Now this is going to absorb, which it usually does. It's definitely going to absorb. I think I'm making mine a little different this time. I'm making mine a little darker this time. Now, as I said before that, I only have an interest in developing 2 other screen paints. It's going to be the Unicorn We got a visible version of this technology. That's for storefronts only. That's for our contracts. But keep in mind, I have the capability of developing enhancements, which means I can develop enhancements to make the screens better than what they are. And that's what we're going to be adding to the pre-codeds. Pre-codeds are going to have enhancements attached to them to have the screens perform a little better due to somebody painting the screens on themselves, because like I said, we have to have a difference in there. All right. And we already have one already ready to go. And this right here is going to be the primer, or whatever you want to call it, to absorb in the screen. As I said before, you don't need to have a special kind of paint, a special kind of primer. It's not needed. You just need to be able to absorb as much paint into the screen surface so we don't have uneven spots. Because what's going to happen is you get an uneven spot on your screen when you do this display an image. One of the images is going to come a little lighter, it's going to come up darker. You're going to have blots on your screens. You don't want that. So make sure you go over the top of the screen. Take out the dust. Don't worry about walking over top of it because you're going to paint it anyway. We're going to start off right here. Quite a good amount. That's that before you take your roller and you push out. Don't want to push back because the material will come back with you, especially when you're doing corners. Make sure you push out. You get an area where you have to worry about the roller pushing back and forth. And all you do is just basically just, you can push that. But when you're doing your corners, make sure you push out on the corners. If you don't want that right there, here and here, you can actually go back and forth, no problem. But when you get to those corners, you're going to make sure that you're pushing out. So that will go with you. That absorbs that fast, that quick. That put a paint right there absorb that fast. Once you get the paint over the top of it, it's pretty much going to be wet. It's going to cause a bit of a suction. So there you can go in, you can actually roll back and forth with no problem. But when you're actually spreading it out, make sure you push out first. So worrying about jacking up the floor because we're going to replace the floor. Anyway, whoops. There we go. Got a bit of a roll back in there. Make sure you get it in good. Now, I only want to explain to you why you do not want to go with a gray screen paint product or white for venue projectors, but we're going to show you. This is the reason why these giant screens are being painted. We have quite a few contracts coming up with companies, and like I said, I've talked with a lot of these companies before, and from the door, they're using 10,000, 12,000 lumen projectors. These projectors are massive. Mind you, these are screen paints. You're going to have to be able to operate and well beyond lit environment. That's why when we show them demonstrations, when they ask us, okay, can you screen paint handle this and that, we show them demonstrations of outside. Can't get any more brutal than outside. So that's why I explained to you that when you're hitting a screen that's gray or white, you're going to be reflecting a ton of white light everywhere, and you're going to be washing your screen out even faster. These are screens that are required to be used in ambient light controlled environments. In these environments, where these commercialized screens are going to be sitting at, chances are they're not ambient light controlled, especially churches. And they don't want it, and then like I said, everybody doesn't want to spend all this money, you know. It's crazy enough they spend a ton, people spend a ton of money for projectors at the end of the day, for these huge, massive setups. But you're going to turn around and you get to spend a screen like one of the bigger companies. You're talking about $5,000 for a 100-inch, and you got to have a screen of 180 inches. You have any idea how much money that is at the end of the day? I told you that DNP Supernova, a screen size for 180-inch screen is going to cost you $18,000. That is a lot of money for a screen. $18,000. That's how much money it's going to cost you. Let's get our corners over here so we don't work on this next. And chances are that the church who's doing the screen has already done the gray screen paint already. I guarantee they've already done it. Most likely they've already done it. Because they're just looking for resources to try to paint a screen of that size. And I guarantee you, they've done the gray screen paint already. Nope, that's something on the floor. Guarantee you. I figured, I think I'm going to develop my own primer. I want something that covers in one coat real quick, real fast. Actually, what we have right here is a bit of an experiment. We actually have a primer we're making that basically applies a lot faster, a lot quicker, and it will cut down my time. Instead of me having to apply 2 coats to the surface, I would only have to do 1. So actually what you're seeing right here is something in testing. That's why it looks different. And that's why it's applying so much, so fast, because this is something we're experimenting with. Because if I'm going to be basically, so many screens recoded, to put 2 applications for each screen would take too much time. But to develop a technology that will allow me to be able to prime the surface and to be able to allow it to coat faster would be much, much more efficient. That's what, all God is always giving me something, always giving me something to do the job a little better. Usually, when I'm using like a primer or any kind of paint, that's what I have to do. I have to put on 2 coats, just in case the surface. But this new stuff we have now is much more easier. Much more easier. Make sure I get everything. We're only going to do this one time. Now, are we going to sell that application? No, not really. This will be for us only. That's for us. As you can see by the size of the screen, there's no way in the world that 2 coats of paint are ever, or 2 quarts of paint are ever going to cover that. That's about a gallon we just went through. There's no way in the world. That's why I said that, if you've been basically have not been painting for a long time, that's an honest rookie mistake. But if you've been painting that long and you don't know how much paint literally it takes to go in to paint a 300-inch screen, that clearly shows at the end of the day you have no idea what you were talking about. I don't know anyone that could have been in a business that long and made such a foolish mistake. I'm sorry, some people feel that this is going too far. It's not, because you have to understand that you will cost people money at the end of the day when you make these mistakes. And as I said before, some companies have to go before a committee to get approved for funding for certain items. And if they have to go back again, it's hard enough trying to get the funding the first time. Now they got to go back and they got to get the funding the second time on a project that the committee at one point is going to get to the point thinking it's costing them too much money. And they may decide to basically not derail, but basically decide to not do it. So like I said, you have to make sure that, and this person, like again, is trusting you. They're putting their faith in you that your calculations are going to be correct. Because if they're not, then what's going to happen is you're going to have these individuals or go back into this committee or where they have to go to get these approvals for these fundings, and they're going to have to go through that process again because your calculations were off. And anyone who has any experience in painting screens of this size would automatically know a gallon is going to be needed. That's like if you have an experienced painter can come in and tell you, yeah, you're going to need this much and that much because he has experience in that field of painting this particular surface, that area for so many years. And he can tell you exactly how much you need. To a person who doesn't know what they're talking about, they have to second guess it because they really don't know at the end of the day. So yeah, you can cause a lot of trouble like that. That's why I say it's very important that information you have on your website is actually information that you have on your website that you have tested already. Anything we have on our site, we got a video to back every single thing up. You can't go on there with falsified lies. It's not going to work. At the end of the day, you're going to cost people money. So like I said, a screen of this caliber, usually most people don't have a screen this big in their homes. No, usually this would be for backyard, churches, and so forth. This is what this would be for, events, stuff like that. And then when we get done painting this giant screen, we have it set up outside. Trying to get it outside. We're going to show you why you do not want to, at the end of the day, paint or have a screen of this caliber, even for outside, a gray screen or white screen, because they do not work well with venue projectors. And I know because I have quite a lot of venue projectors and a good amount of experience in them. Compared to people who do not have venue projectors and don't know much about them at all. Mind you, like I said, you have to know what you're talking about before you basically start blotting things down on your website, because you don't want to basically misinform customers. Information has to be correct. We're working it in right now. Make sure to miss any spots. Now, I always advise 2 coats. Like I said, with the coating we have is a 1-coat application. But even if I'm doing a screen, I say bigger than 180 inches, I would probably go over twice, just in case if I missed any spots. So we use well than a gallon on this with no problem. Always make sure there's an extra in there just in case if I have to move it around a bit. It's more than enough of what we need, but I always have to make sure there's a little bit more extra. Now there's 2 ways when you paint the screen. You're going to go from one end here, you're going to paint it this way, and then you're going to go back and paint it this way, because there could be spots on this side that you can see areas that are white on this side. They may show up on this side, and then you could go on the other side and you can see something different on the other side. So that's why I like to go back and forth just to make sure. Let's get our corners here. Make sure I get my roller nice and tight. Like I said, some people, the pre-coats come in handy because, like I said, you know, some people don't have the room to do it, and this makes it a lot easier for them. We did the job for you, but we're going to do something interesting, extra with our screens. We're going to add in an advancement coating onto it, and this advancement coating is going to be a heightener, another advanced heightener. We're going to add to the screen. We're going to do these with pre-coated. But this is a screen we can actually have. We have more control over because we're painting it ourselves. Now, for those of you who have gotten, sorry about that. For those of you who have gotten the acoustic screen, you're probably asking about that heightener. You're going to go, that screen has it. Your screen automatically has it. Anytime we do a screen that's pre-coated, we always put something extra on the surface because we're doing it. We can add little perks to the surface. So it's already been added. We just had no intention on doing pre-coated screens of this caliber, of this size. Right, so I'm going to work everything in. Make sure everything's nice and covered up. Now, mind you, if you're doing this without the pre-coated, without our pre-coated screens, as I said before, when you're painting this, you want to put 2 applications because this is something we're testing. This is a primer that I developed to allow the screen to be able to absorb much faster, because this cuts down on my time on basically producing these screens. Because if I have to put 2 applications for every time I put in a screen, it's going to take so much time up. It's a lot easier for me to go in and make my own form of weatherproof primer. Sorry about that. That will allow me to put 1 coat on and be done with it. Makes my job much, much easier. And yes, it is weatherproof. As I said before, we have a screen sitting outside. Actually, we have demonstrations in the snow. I got to get up there and I have to start updating my website because all my information's updated. I need to be adding more pictures and more videos to my site because a lot of people come hitting my site now and I need to have videos in there. More videos. So we're going to be updating all that stuff. So since we can't get the screen outside because we do have snow, we have a 180-inch surface. So here we're going to hang it up. We should be able to use the whatchamacallem, the background drop stands to do this. All right, so I'm gonna go back over. Make sure I got my everything done really good. So everything's gonna roll back. Be careful about that. Make sure that's in there. I stepped in paint. I knew it. It's like a tradition. No matter what, I always step in paint. No matter what happens, I always step in paint. I could be as careful as can be, and I would still manage to step in paint every single time. All right, I'm going to the other side. Tighten up this. We got everything in. There we go. Work everything in. My only friend. Ooh, this is gonna be fun to get done with this thing. Ooh. Woo! Man, I think I was gonna make that one. That crosswalk was kind of crazy. But we made it. Back over here and repeat the same thing again. We got it all worked tonight. Oh, bumped the crap out of my projector. Not good. All right, so we're done. That's finished. Primer went on better than I thought. So this is now our new version, our new primer that we're working on. It went quite well. Covered extremely fast. We gotta make some more of this. I'm gonna need 5 gallons of this right here from the door. So if I sit there and tell you that, how much paint it goes in to paint a 180-inch screen, I know, because I have experience in that field. But as I said before, if anyone's going to tell you 2 quarts into a 300-inch screen, oh heck no, that is not going to go. In no way on no planet on the face of the planet. And if they're doing math by saying, hey, 3 100-inch screens are going to fit, that's not going to happen either. That is not going to happen. So if you're going to say, out of curiosity, if you're going to say that 3 100-inch screens are the equivalents of a 300-inch screen, how many screens would it take to do a 180-inch or 150 inch? Are you going to break that by saying, oh, you're going to need two? I don't even know how they even work at the end of the day. They don't make a 30-inch screen. So how would you even break that down to begin with? That's why I told you at the end of the day, you can tell that the math is way off. Because there's no way you're going to sit there and say, oh, for 300 inch, that's an even number. So you're just going to go by even numbers by 2, 3, 100, 200, and 300. What about the 150s, 135, 120s, 128s, 129s? Those are ones actually for 1610 applications, 235.1 settings. So if you get a screen size of 170 inch at 235.1, how are you going to equivalent that to how many 100-inch screens would go into that? That doesn't even make any sense at the end of the day. That doesn't even work. I don't even know how where anybody would even come up with that calculation at the end of the day. It's virtually impossible. So that's why I said when you read nonsense like that on websites, you have to be really careful about who you're dealing with, because at the end of the day, that person probably has no experience, is next to nothing when it comes to painting larger screens, because this took about a gallon to knock out. I can even tell the size of the screen just by opening up the material. I can tell by looking at it, I think, wait, it's a little bit off, because, like I said, measurements we had on the site, measurements we got off the website were completely different from the measurements of the actual screen, actually seeing it in real life right in front of you. So that's what I was looking like. There's no way in the world the screen's supposed to be 15 feet, which I'm glad it's not, because, man, we could do 180 inch in here with no problem. I was more concerned about that when I was looking at the measurements, like there's no way in the world we're going to be able to do a 180 inch screen inside, but literally we can do one actually inside with no problem. But I'd rather prefer to do this outside, because I'd rather want to be outside. All right, cool. Let me go pack my stuff up. I'm going to show you how much of my homemade primer that I have left. And yes, my homemade primer is weatherproof, because I know how to I specialize in weatherproof screens. Of course, we got one outside, which I can't wait to hopefully we can get outside and play around with that today. And the snow doesn't melt, because right now we do have sun outside, so I don't know how that's going to even go. All right, so let me show you how much we have left. I made quite a lot of primer, by the way, of our primer. This is how much we have left. Quite a lot to do other stuff with. But we only use it for fabric, that's it. We don't prime anything else, but we just use it for fabric. All right, so this is finished. Put the top on this and mark this as prime, or test primer. My only friend, summertime, do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do. So that is going to be marked as the test primer. Let me see if I can tightrope around this. Of course, I should have brought the other one. I'm kind of asking for it. Yeah, I should do it that way instead. So I got to plug that fan in onto the side to get that done. Just in case if I fall over, I can hit the screen. I'm good here. Hard parts. Well, I have to hit right there because I need some leverage. Woo. Now, I'm going to post a few demonstrations. This is 180 and 16:9, so I think I've already posted the 180 and 16:9 video demonstration. Check it out. See how the screen's gonna look. This is not black. This is basically the primer, dark primer that I am testing, because like I said, when we start basically producing these screens, I don't want to be priming twice. So right now I'm designing my own primer that will be a one coat, real quick, real fast, absorb to the surface. I only got to do it one time and I'm done. We're going to be coating this with 38 Black Widow next. and you'll see the screen black, the difference between the two. On top of that also too, because these are going to be pre-coated screens, we're going to be putting a kind of a special heightener that will be sprayed over top the screen to enhance the screens, because we actually do develop enhancements to make our screens much more advanced. For those of you who had the acoustic screens, if you're wondering, do you have the enhancement? Yes, you do already have it. Like I said, we had no intention at the time of doing any form of pre-coated screens of this caliber, but now that we're actually going to be adding that on there. Keep in mind, anyone can go down and do this themselves, but we're going to make something different. That's why we're putting the enhancer on ours, because that will basically give the screen a step up from anyone else doing it themselves. So it's going to be a little bit of a perk for getting the pre-coating. Other than that, like I said, the primer we designed, perfect. It worked perfectly. Did exactly what we need to do. We need to absorb as fast as possible without basically going over the screen twice, because like I said, if I have to do 30 of these, doing 2 times application for primer is going to be a bit of a headache. So to make things a lot faster and smoother, we can develop our own primers and own enhancements for the screen. So once this is done, since we can't take it outside, we're going to hook it up in here. My screen over here, if you look at the size of my screen from one end to the next, is exactly the same size as the screen I have against the wall, which is 180 inches. We're going to have it up against that using the huge background drops, so we can actually test the screen out inside. We have multiple projectors at our disposal right here, many projectors there, so we can do whatever we want. This is going to be fun. As a matter of fact, I plan to do, well, the way the screen is wide, if we set it up the lengthways, I can get half of it on the floor, half of it on the screen, and I can hit my floor projector and my wall projectors at the same time, which would be really cool. I think that's what we're going to do. All right, well, I'm done here. That's why I said you got to read through stuff carefully. Like I said, it's mine again. Like I said, remember I told you about it's one thing that will kill a screen paint faster than anything in the world is how much time it takes for the screen to be applied to a surface. That will murder your screen quick. Imagine if this was a 4-coat application at 180 inches. This is why I explain to people when we watch that demonstration on that little sample sheet. That's nothing compared when you do that on a screen that's going to be 4 feet by 7 feet or 9 feet by 16 feet. All that changes within a hot second on how complicated it's going to start to get for you at the end of the day. This is a 180 inch screen, so you imagine if I had to put a 4-coat screen paint application on this. Do you have any idea how long that would take? There you go. That would be a headache. That's why some people would stay away from something due to the fact, because even the instructions would be way too complicated. But when you're doing a size, a small size that's 3 by 4, oh, come on. That's easy to do if you're doing an application like that. 5 by 5, easy application. But once you start reaching 4 feet by 7 feet, yeah, now things are going to get a little bit more difficult and more complicated for you. And then the bigger the screen gets, the more complicated it's going to get. There are going to be people who are going to be requesting screen sizes of this caliber. So I'm going to be posting below the testimony from the church that we did for them. We have it on our website. We did a screen that was over 1,000 inches. We did it in a fully lit environment. It had massive stage lights in the environment. We send this to churches. And like I said, the church we're dealing with right now, we're talking to right now, as I said before, very powerful projector, 12,000 lumens. But when you hit a gray or white screen with a 12,000 lumen projector, it's going to wash out. Even with that 5,000, it's going to wash out. So we're going to be doing some demonstrations outside. For all you naysayers out there and saying, oh, that's not true. You have to remember, Mr. Bird backs it up. I wouldn't have all these high-end projectors in here if I couldn't back it up, could I? Now, I'm going to show you at the end of the day, people have churches, auditoriums, schools, whatever they're using it for, do not hit. And this is from personal experience from talking to people, companies and businesses who have got these massive monster projectors that are hitting these screens, and the screens are washing out. And I explained to them that, look, when you watch these demonstrations with these products are always done in ambient light controlled environments. If you have a screen that's cradled in an ambient light controlled environment, especially on an ultra short throw projector, and that was thrown into an environment where the ambient light is way beyond what we're using in here, more like outside worthy, and they had the projector sitting back, close to 30 feet from the screen size is like 200, 300 inches, then what? Your product will not survive in that environment. If it can't survive in here, it's definitely not going to survive in that. And some people think, oh, because the lumen count is so high, it's going to be, no, it's not going to pick up color because that's even more white light hitting a surface that's already generating too much white light, and you're washing out the image. It's like when you walk outside on a snowy day and you don't have sunglasses on. What's the first thing that happens? You squint your eyes, it's called snow blind. Too much white light. So that's what happens. Now, for those that experiment, they try to make the screen darker. Then what happens is the darker products they put up there don't have the ability to be able to accept and register white light. And now you have a dark, dirty image. Even if you have a 10,000 or 5,000 lumen projector, you're still going to produce a dirty image because it can't register white light. That's why I said, you know, venue projectors, bad idea for a white screen or gray screen. Very bad idea. Even at that, home theaters are very bad for them too. All right, I got to bring another fan down for this section right here. This is going to be part 1. Part 2, we put the product on and we're done. Usually we have to do 3 parts to this. We have to do first coat, second coat, and then after that we paint our product onto it. With this one, all we have to do now is 1 coat, which is fantastic. Thank you, Lord. And then basically put in our last coat. That's it. 2 applications. That's it. We're done. We can knock this out. Now, for those of you that may be asking, are we going to be selling the primer? No, we're not selling it. Sorry, that's for us only. Only for us. Not even people who have contracts with us can get their hands on that primer. Only we have access to that. This makes my job so much easier. Now I wonder, my big concern when I did the 180 inch, I'm thinking like I'm probably going to have to overlap the screen, which means we're going to have to fold the screen because the screen may be too long, and then paint it in, and then let that dry, and then hit that section, let it paint it in. But the fact I was able to get the whole screen in here with no problem, oh, because we don't have the sofa. That's what it was. So that sofa we have in the next room used to be in here, but now it's over there. That's what it is. We got the room for, because we had the sofa in here. It was that pain in the neck to do it. We had to push the sofa up. That's what it was. We don't have the sofa in here. So, can we do a 200 inch? That's what's kicking. Now, yeah, foldovers are easy to do. You know, you just paint one side of the screen, and you have the screen folded over, and then you basically take the other half. When that dries, pull that back, fold it over, and paint the other half. You do it in halves. That's how you do it. We can literally probably do a 200 inch, and this is 180. We could definitely nail 200 inch easy in here. And it probably won't be much of a fold over either. Literally, we could actually do it. I'm going to order me a 200 inch screen. If we can do a 200 screen, we're going to add that to the list for pre-coateds. So I'm pretty sure we can do it. All right, people, I'm not going to waste your time. I got a bowl of syrup upstairs with my name on it to my let's go eat. And I'm going to be back down here for the last one. We're going to coat the application on. Actually, do got 3. We got to coat the application on, let that dry, and then we got to come back here and do a demonstration. So we're going to do portrait, floor, and we're going to do 2 motorized. We're going to do motorized block. We're going to do 2 projection screens up here and a floor, because I'm going to hang this up this way, so that way I can hit my floor at the same time too. You know, kind of think of it. I want one of these now. I don't even want the 150 anymore. I want one of these for my floor. This thing is huge. My goodness, I can cover my entire floor with a print this big. Oh, heck yes. Well, I guess I'm going to be ordering 2 more screens. I'm going to get me a 200 inch and another one because this one's going outside. I need another one for my floor. I want a 180 inch for my floor. This would be awesome on my floor, man. I'm definitely going to do a floor projection off this bad boy before we hang it up. All right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. All right, people. I got to go. Next, we will be applying the 38 Black Widow. Boom, to the surface. Look how dark this is compared to the gray screen on the floor. That gray primer. Our primer. We gotta have a name for it too. It's called oh, gotta give me a name for it. But like I said, God works everything out. And I thought about that. I was like, man, I'm gonna have to put 2 applications per surface. You know how long that's gonna take? If I got like 12 screens to do that day and I gotta do freaking 2 per each one, that's gonna take so much time. But doing 1 and that's it, oh, that is fantastic. That makes my job so much easier. Don't want to step on that. Yeah. No way in the world. No way in the world 2 quarts would have been. 48 when they even cover this. Which I'm going to experiment to see if a 48 will. Just out of curiosity, see if we can get a 48. Out of curiosity, and we'll just finish off the rest of the gallon. But we want to do a 48, see if a 48 can cover this. I doubt it will be able to do it, but still. Yeah, because 2 quarts would be a 64. It would be 64 ounces. That's what it would be. All right, let me get another fan down here. All right, people. I hope you enjoyed the demonstration. Hopefully you learned something from the demonstration. As I said before, you got to make sure when you're reading through these sites that the information is correct. And I'm going to tell you firsthand off from a person who has experience in large screens and dealing with venue projectors. As you can see, all my projectors actually down here are pretty much venue, just about. I think the short throw and the ultra short throw and the ultra short throw and short throw are not venue, but everything down here are venue projectors. But has experience in this field. If you ever read on a website someone telling you that you can put 2 quarts of paint to a 300-inch screen, that is a complete lie. Don't make that mistake. Like I said, at the end of the day, this could cost you money, and it could cost you time, and also give you some embarrassment at the end of the day. Make sure you know exactly what the person, if what they're talking about at the end of the day, or even talk to a painter or whatever at the end of the day to get the approximate how much paint you need to do this. On our end, we know this from the door, because like I said, I painted quite a few of these 180-inch screens, so I know from the door. And like I said, we already tested them and had them on display. I did put a link below, so you can go in and click the link and check out the 180-inch screen on display, which now we're going to have this one out here pretty soon too. I'm going to be going over to probably next week over to Lowe's to pick up lumber to start building the frame for the 180-inch screen, and we'll have it on display. As of today, it will be on display today, but inside only, because we do have snow outside. Hopefully the snow doesn't melt. We can go out there on 150-inch. All right, with that being said, hope you enjoyed part 1. We'll be back in with part 2 where the screen is dry, and we'll apply our application. And then after that, once that's dry, part 3 will be displaying the screen. Gotta go, and God bless. And as always, we thank our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for blessing us with amazing technology. Gotta go.